It's been almost a year since Labour swept to power with the promise of change, but we are still not seeing the scale of ambition needed to turn the country around. We welcome the announcement of investment in the NHS, but on its own, it won't work unless the government invests in social care too. We welcome the investment in infrastructure, but on its own, it won't work unless the government invests in skilling up the workforce we need to build it. And cutting billions from departmental budgets in real terms seems unnecessary when the government could instead go for growth and get a much deeper trading relationship with Europe, a move which could raise an extra £25 billion per year for the public purse. For as long as the government fails to truly tackle the red tape and trading barriers blocking British businesses, the government's grip on economic growth is more akin to a handbrake than an accelerator. Madam Deputy Speaker, the last Conservative government left our NHS on its knees. On their watch, waiting lists were soaring, hospitals were crumbling, and our high street healthcare was hollowed out. Can the Chancellor confirm that this funding will deliver the extra 8,000 GPs that are needed to guarantee everyone an appointment within 7 days or 24 hours if urgent? Can the Chancellor confirm that this funding will bring dentists back into the NHS and put an end to dental deserts? Can the Chancellor promise that this funding will mean that every cancer patient starts treatment within 62 days? And will she promise that the government will meet the Prime Minister's own pledge that 92% of routine operations will take place within 18 weeks? Will the Chancellor and the Health Secretary, sitting side by side, set up a crumbling hospitals task force to look at creative funding ideas, to bring construction dates forward and put an end to the vicious cycle that we saw under the previous government, and false economies of delayed rebuilds leading to rising repair costs? And then, of course, Madam Deputy Speaker, there is the elephant in the NHS waiting room: the crisis in our social care services. The Chancellor knows. The Health and Social Care Secretary knows. This whole Parliament knows that today's investment in the NHS will be like pouring water into a leaky bucket if hospitals cannot discharge patients who are well enough to leave because there aren't the care workers to help them recover at home.
Absolutely right.
This fair pay agreement that the Chancellor talks about, of course, is welcome, but it is barely a baby step, and it is nowhere near enough to bring back social care from the brink. At a bare minimum, we need a higher minimum wage for our care workers to stop the sector hemorrhaging care workers to other sectors. So when will the Chancellor finally recognise that we will never fix the NHS if we don't fix social care too? And will the government finally act with urgency and commit to concluding the social care review by the end of this year, not in 3 years' time? On housing, we warmly welcome the government's investment in social homes. Will the government now commit to the Liberal Democrats' target of building 150,000 social homes every single year? Madam Deputy Speaker, our other public services are crying out for investment too. Our communities need proper neighbourhood policing to feel safe. Our farmers need fair support payments to keep food on our tables. And people of all ages deserve access to training and skills to build their future and to help power our economy forward. That's why it's so disappointing that the Chancellor has today made things so difficult for some of our public services, cutting unprotected budgets by billions. Yes, we know she was faced with the fallout from the most reckless and the most out-of-touch Conservative government in recent memory. But being responsible is not just about taking tough decisions. It's about having the moral courage to make the right ones. Yet this government seems determined not to adopt the one policy that could put rocket boosters on our economy and raise billions for our public services: a proper trade deal with Europe. A new bespoke customs union with the EU could boost our GDP by more than 2.2%, securing additional revenue to the tune of £25 billion a year, a huge boost to businesses and to our struggling public services too. If the Chancellor can U-turn on the winter fuel payment, thanks to a skinny EU trade pact worth just 0.2% in extra GDP, Just imagine how many more U-turns she could perform with a proper trade deal worth 10 times as much. Madam Deputy Speaker, we Liberal Democrats strongly support the allocation of 2.5% of GDP on defence, but we want to see ministers go further and faster to bolster our national security in today's uncertain world. Will the Chancellor agree to cross-party talks in which we can work together to set a pathway to 3% of GDP well ahead of 2034? Will the Government use some of today's investment to reverse the Conservatives' irresponsible 10,000 troop cut? And will the Chancellor make sure that investing in our national security becomes a lever for economic growth, putting a much greater emphasis on British steel producers and SMEs as we scale up our defences? And will the Chancellor ensure that British start-ups can use defence innovation for the public good? Before I conclude, Madam Deputy Speaker, I must thank the Chancellor for finally completing the world's slowest U-turn on the unfair winter fuel payments cut. Now that the Chancellor has U-turned, will she do the right thing and backdate the payment for all those who lost out on support this past winter, but who would now be eligible under the new rules? And now the Chancellor has U-turned once, will she make it a hat-trick and also change course on PIP and carers' allowance cuts as well? Perhaps the Chancellor might even look again at the growth-crushing jobs tax and other changes affecting our high streets, small businesses and family businesses, and instead look at the fairer ways of raising revenue that we Liberal Democrats have set out time and time again, raising the same amount of revenue from the big banks, the social media giants and the online gambling companies to start paying their fair share of tax. Madam Deputy Speaker, after years of chaos and incompetence under the last Conservative government, this was a unique opportunity to draw a line under the social care crisis, squeezed budgets and sluggish economic growth. So I strongly urge the Chancellor, will she ignore those who talk down Britain's economic potential? Will she rip up the red tape holding British businesses back? And will she strike a properly ambitious trade deal with Europe that will turbocharge our economy and bring in the billions to rebuild our public services? The government says its #1 mission is growth. This would be the way to deliver it.